Removing the inner cam bearings can be pretty tricky, and this is probably the most delicate part of the project because things can go seriously wrong. If the needles get crushed, they can go flying down the gap between the flywheel and the crankcase. When that happens, you need to pull the motor, take it all apart, and fish out the needles. So there's quite a few things we can do to prevent it. One of the things you can do is collapsing your collet enough that you wouldn't have to jam it in. You can just insert it in, because if you have to tap it in hard, you might be running the risk of crushing the needles and sending them down that way. The other thing you can do is get red and tacky grease and just put a whole bunch all around, just in between the bearings. So if they do get crushed, there's a good chance they're gonna stick together. And one thing I thought of being like a foolproof method is taking a little string. This would have come from the kid's kite. Cut it to size, put a light coat of grease on it, and I tucked it all around the gap. It's thick enough so it's not gonna go through the gap, but it's gonna jam the way. So if anything bad happens, nothing will go through there. The other thing I've done is I've cut a little piece out of this sleeve so that when I'm cranking down on the nut, I can have a quick peek just to make sure it's the bearing that's coming out, not just a collet. Because if it's just a collet coming through, it means it slipped off the edge and might be scraping through the bearings, breaking them. So you would want to just stop, collapse the collet, and pull it out and start again. We're going to start by inserting the collet. There we go. Followed by the pin, which I marked. This is how far it needs to go in to expand the jaws or the mandrels. You should be able to just push it right in. Shouldn't have to tap. That's it. It's all the way in. Now here comes your sleeve. Your washer, your nut. To hold it down with a wrench. You got your big wrench. Start cranking it down. That's it. Hear the pop. And now I'm gonna have a little peek. And yes, the bearing has started to come out. So I can continue. Might have another peek. Yep, the bearing is coming out nicely. Nice and easy. All right, so let's do the installation now. Again, you really want to use the right tool for this as well. One of the reasons is that there's a little lip in the bore in there, which is the stop for the bearing. If you were to tap it in, you could easily break that off. And also on the tool, on the driver, there's a little lip here, which will set the bearing at the correct depth, which is also very important. All right, so we get a tool here. I threaded it through already, lubed it up a little bit, got this on here. Don't forget the O-ring, it will center the driver. Put some oil on there. We get our bearing. The lettered side, this one, will need to face out. Like that. We're gonna put a little lube on here. And a little lube in the bore. There's a hole for the dowel. I'm going to use the thumb screws. One of the thumb screws is busted, so I'm just using the bolt from the cam cover. Now the plate is all secured. I'm just going to have a look from underneath to make sure that the bearing is all lined up. It is. So get your wrench, which is a 13/16. Have a look, it's going in nicely. I can see it. I can now feel the resistance. So I stop and back it out. Remove the plate. So the bearing is in there nicely. Make sure there's no binding. And now we can remove the safety string. And you're done.